What if I told you that the most terrifying sea monsters in history weren't just stories? What if ancient sailors weren't imagining the giant shadows they saw beneath their ships? And what if, somewhere in the deepest parts of the ocean, creatures beyond our imagination are still waiting to be discovered? Every year, scientists uncover strange new animals that nobody knew existed. Some look so unbelievable they could have stepped straight out of ancient legends. Yet despite all our technology, humanity has explored only a tiny fraction of Earth's oceans. The overwhelming majority remains hidden beneath miles of darkness, where sunlight never reaches and almost nothing is known. For thousands of years, sailors feared these waters. They returned home with incredible stories of monstrous tentacles rising from the sea, enormous serpents stretching across the horizon, ghostly creatures that appeared without warning, and beasts powerful enough to destroy entire ships. Most people laughed at these stories and called them myths. But history has a surprising habit of proving old legends right. Again and again, creatures once dismissed as fantasy have later been discovered to be completely real. Giant squids, enormous prehistoric predators, and bizarre deep-sea animals have all forced scientists to rethink what is truly possible beneath the waves. If some legends turned out to have real origins, how many others are still waiting for their moment to be proven? Today, we're diving into 10 legendary sea creatures that blur the line between myth and reality. Some are inspired by real prehistoric giants. Others are connected to mysterious discoveries that continue to puzzle scientists. And a few remain so unexplained that even today, no one can say with complete certainty where the truth ends and the legend begins. Stay with us until the very end, because the final creature is unlike anything you've ever seen, and its story has left people questioning what may still be hiding in the darkest corners of our planet. Let's begin our descent into the deep. Imagine standing on the deck of a wooden ship hundreds of years ago. The sea is calm. The wind suddenly disappears. Then the water beneath you begins to move. Not from waves, but from something enormous rising out of the darkness below. Moments later, giant tentacles burst through the surface, wrapping around the ship as terrified sailors scream in panic. For centuries, this nightmare had a name. The Kraken. Long before cameras or submarines existed, fishermen and explorers sailing the cold waters around Norway, Iceland, and Greenland told remarkably similar stories. They described a monstrous creature so massive that its body looked like a floating island. Its tentacles were said to be long enough to reach the tallest masts, crushing ships before dragging them into the depths. Most historians believed these stories were nothing more than exaggerated tales told by frightened sailors. After all, life at sea was dangerous, and strange sights were often explained through myths. But then something unexpected happened. In the 19th century, enormous squid carcasses began washing onto beaches across northern Europe. These weren't ordinary sea creatures. They were unlike anything scientists had ever examined. Some measured well over 40 feet in length, with eyes larger than dinner plates and powerful arms lined with hundreds of razor-sharp suction cups. For the first time, people realized that the legends might have been inspired by something real. Today, giant squids are accepted as one of the largest invertebrates on Earth. They spend nearly their entire lives in the deep ocean, where sunlight never reaches. Because they live so far below the surface, humans rarely encounter them alive. In fact, for centuries, no one had ever successfully filmed one in its natural habitat. That mystery only made the Kraken legend even more fascinating. Scientists continue to debate just how large these animals can grow. The biggest confirmed specimens have reached around 13 meters, or roughly 43 feet. Yet many marine biologists believe larger individuals may still exist, hidden in parts of the ocean that remain unexplored. Then came an even stranger discovery. In Nevada, researchers studying the fossils of an enormous marine reptile called Shawnosaurus, which lived around 200 million years ago, noticed something unusual. Several skeletons were found arranged in patterns that didn't seem random. Some researchers argued that these giant reptiles may have been dragged together by an unknown predator. One of the most controversial ideas came from Professor Mark McMenamin. He suggested that a gigantic ancient cephalopod, something resembling an enormous octopus or squid, may have attacked these massive reptiles. According to his theory, unusual marks on the bones resembled impressions left by powerful suction cups, while the positioning of the skeletons looked similar to how modern octopuses organize the remains of their prey. Not every scientist agrees with this interpretation, and many consider the theory highly speculative. But it raises an intriguing question. If prehistoric oceans once supported giant marine reptiles far larger than anything alive today, could equally enormous predators have evolved alongside them? The deeper we explore, the more surprises the ocean reveals. Every expedition discovers creatures that seem almost impossible, reminding us that the sea still holds secrets beyond our imagination. Perhaps the Kraken was never a supernatural monster at all. Perhaps it was simply humanity's first glimpse of one of the greatest predators ever to inhabit the deep. And if legends like this were inspired by real creatures, what other ancient monsters might have left traces beneath the waves? Across thousands of years of human history, one sea creature has inspired more fear than almost any other. Its name appears in ancient religious texts, old legends, and stories passed from one generation to the next. Imagine looking across a calm ocean just after sunset. Suddenly, a long dark shape breaks the surface. It doesn't move like a whale. It doesn't resemble a shark. Instead, its body twists through the water in giant waves, stretching farther than your eyes can clearly follow. Before you can react, it disappears beneath the sea, leaving only ripples behind. For centuries, this is exactly what sailors claimed to witness. Stories of giant sea serpents appear in nearly every maritime culture on Earth. From the mighty Naga of South Asia to the sea dragons of China, from Japan's legendary Ryujin to the enormous Jormungandr of Norse mythology, civilizations separated by thousands of miles all describe gigantic snake-like creatures living beneath the waves. How could so many cultures imagine something so similar? One of the most famous modern sightings occurred off the coast of Gloucester, Massachusetts, in 1817. Fishermen, merchants, and even respected local citizens reported seeing an enormous creature moving through the water. Witnesses described a body that seemed to rise and fall in a series of humps, with a long neck and a serpent-shaped head. Some estimated it was more than 100 feet long. The report spread rapidly, attracting scientists, journalists, and curious crowds. While skeptics dismissed the stories, many eyewitnesses insisted they had seen something no known animal could explain. But could there be a scientific answer? One possible explanation is the basking shark, the second largest fish on Earth. Growing up to 40 feet long, this harmless giant often swims close to the surface. When parts of its body appear above the water one after another, it can create the illusion of a gigantic serpent weaving through the sea. History offers another fascinating clue. In 1808, a massive decomposing animal washed ashore in Scotland. Measuring more than 50 feet in length, the strange carcass looked nothing like any familiar sea creature. Local residents immediately believed they had found the remains of a legendary sea serpent. Years later, marine experts suggested it was most likely a decaying basking shark whose body had changed shape after decomposition. As the softer parts disappeared, the remaining skeleton created the eerie appearance of a long neck and serpent-like body. Then another mystery surfaced. In 1860, an unusual creature washed onto the shores of Bermuda. At first, people once again believed they had discovered proof of a sea serpent. Eventually, scientists identified it as an oarfish, one of the strangest animals alive today. Oarfish can grow close to 50 feet long. Their ribbon-shaped silver bodies shimmer beneath the water, while bright red fins run along their backs like a glowing crown. Because they spend most of their lives in the deep ocean, encounters with living oarfish are extremely rare. When they occasionally rise toward the surface, usually because they are sick or injured, their appearance is so unusual that it's easy to understand why sailors once believed they were seeing sea monsters. Even today, unexpected sightings continue to fuel the legend. A distant shadow, unusual waves, or the brief glimpse of an enormous body can quickly turn into another story of a giant serpent lurking beneath the sea. So were the ancient sea serpents real? Perhaps some sightings were misunderstood encounters with known animals. Others may have been distorted by fear, rough seas, or poor visibility. Yet the remarkable consistency of these stories across centuries keeps the mystery alive. The ocean has fooled human eyes for thousands of years. And until every corner of its depths has been explored, the legend of the giant sea serpent refuses to disappear. Number 7. Naga. What if one of the world's oldest sea legends wasn't about a monster at all, but about a powerful guardian? A creature believed to control rivers, protect hidden treasures, and even decide whether entire civilizations would receive rain or face devastating drought. This is the legend of the Naga. For more than 2,000 years, stories of the Naga have been woven into the cultures of India and Southeast Asia. Unlike most mythical sea creatures, the Naga was never seen as purely evil. It was respected, feared, and in many places, worshipped. Ancient texts describe the Naga in several forms. Sometimes it appears as an enormous cobra with multiple heads rising high above the water. Other stories portray it as a mystical being with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a giant serpent. No matter its appearance, the message remained the same. The Naga possessed extraordinary power. According to Hindu and Buddhist traditions, these mysterious beings lived beneath rivers, lakes, and oceans in magnificent underwater kingdoms filled with unimaginable riches. They were believed to guard sacred treasures, ancient knowledge, and powerful relics hidden from the human world. People believed the Naga could bless those who respected nature with prosperity, wisdom, and protection. But anyone who polluted rivers, destroyed sacred places, or acted with greed risked facing floods, droughts, disease, or terrible misfortune. Even today, traces of this ancient belief remain alive. Every year, millions of people celebrate Nag Panchami, a festival dedicated to honoring snakes. In many regions, cobras are treated with great respect, while temples across India display magnificent carvings of multi-headed Nagas protecting gods, kings, and sacred entrances. These traditions have survived for centuries, becoming part of everyday culture rather than fading into history. But where did this extraordinary legend begin? Many historians believe the answer lies in humanity's earliest relationship with rivers. Ancient communities depended on fresh water for survival. Rivers provided food, fertile land, and transportation, yet they also brought deadly floods and dangerous wildlife, especially large snakes that lived along the banks. Over generations, these powerful animals became symbols of nature itself. Their mysterious behavior, ability to disappear beneath the water, and deadly venom inspired stories of supernatural guardians watching over the land. Others suggest the legend may have been influenced by encounters with unusually large pythons or king cobras. Imagine discovering a snake longer than a small boat without understanding modern biology. It's easy to see how such an encounter could grow into stories of gigantic serpent beings with magical powers. What makes the Naga unique is that it never disappeared from popular culture. Today, it continues to appear in movies, television series, novels, comics, and video games, often portrayed as an immortal shape-shifter capable of taking human form. Each generation gives the legend a new life, ensuring it remains one of the world's most recognizable mythical creatures. Science has never found evidence of supernatural serpent people living beneath rivers or oceans. Yet the Naga represents something deeper than a simple myth. It reflects humanity's ancient respect for nature and our fascination with creatures we could never fully understand. Perhaps that's why, after thousands of years, the legend still refuses to fade. Because somewhere between history, faith, and mystery, the Naga continues to watch over the waters, waiting for the next generation to wonder whether the old stories were trying to tell us something more. Number 6. Yumibozu. The ocean can be terrifying even when nothing is happening. Imagine sailing across a calm sea at night. The waves stop moving. The wind disappears completely. The entire ocean becomes strangely silent, as if nature itself is holding its breath. Then, without warning, something enormous rises from the darkness. A giant shadow appears beside the ship, towering above the waves like a living mountain. Sailors look up in fear as a mysterious figure emerges from the deep. In Japanese folklore, this creature is known as the Yumabozu. The name roughly translates to sea monk, but there is nothing peaceful about this legendary being. For centuries, Japanese sailors told stories of a mysterious ocean spirit that appeared during perfectly calm conditions and brought disaster to anyone unlucky enough to encounter it. Unlike traditional sea monsters with claws and teeth, the Yumabozu was frightening because of its silence. There were no warning signs, no storms, and no obvious danger. The sea would simply become still before the creature appeared. According to old legends, the Yumabozu would rise from the water as a massive dark figure, sometimes reaching higher than a ship's mast. Some stories described it as a shadowy human shape with no visible face. Others imagined it as a giant black creature surrounded by mist and waves. But the strangest part of the legend was what happened after it appeared. Some sailors claimed the Yumabozu would approach their ships and ask for a simple object, a barrel or bucket. It sounded harmless, but the creature had a deadly purpose. If sailors handed over the wrong container, the Yumabozu would use it to fill the ship with water until it sank beneath the waves. The only way to survive, according to legend, was to trick the creature by giving it a container with a hole in the bottom. While the Yumabozu struggled to fill it, sailors could escape and sail away. Of course, there is no scientific evidence that a giant sea spirit attacks ships. But interestingly, some researchers believe the legend may have developed from real dangers faced by ancient sailors. The ocean around Japan is known for sudden weather changes, powerful waves, underwater currents, and dangerous storms. A peaceful sea could quickly become violent, leaving ships destroyed without warning. To people who depended on the ocean but couldn't explain these events, a mysterious creature from the deep became a natural explanation. Another possibility is that rare sightings of unusual marine animals helped create the legend. Large whales, giant squid, and strange deep-sea creatures occasionally appear near the surface, surprising anyone who sees them. Before modern science, a brief glimpse of an unknown animal could easily become the story of a supernatural monster. The Yumabozu remains one of Japan's most famous sea legends. Its influence can still be seen today in anime, movies, video games, and Japanese storytelling. But perhaps the most powerful part of this legend is not the creature itself. It is the fear of the unknown. Because even today, when a ship enters the open ocean and the waves suddenly become silent, one question still enters the human mind. What is waiting beneath the surface? The sea has always hidden its secrets well. And some mysteries are frightening not because we know they exist, but because we have no idea what might be hiding below. Hashtag number 5. Moby Dick. Throughout history, humans have feared monsters hiding beneath the waves. But sometimes, the most terrifying creatures were not imaginary at all. They were real. Massive. Powerful. And capable of fighting back. One of the most famous examples is the legend of Moby Dick, the giant white whale that became one of the greatest sea stories ever written. Many people know it as a fictional tale, but the terrifying events that inspired it came from real encounters between humans and the largest predators in the ocean. The story begins in the 19th century, during the dangerous age of commercial whaling. At that time, ships traveled thousands of miles across the ocean searching for whales. Their goal was whale oil, a valuable resource used for lamps, machines, and many everyday products. But these voyages were not simple hunting trips. They were battles between humans and some of the strongest animals ever to exist. One event shocked the world. On November 20, 1820, the American whaling ship Essex was sailing through the Pacific Ocean when it encountered an enormous sperm whale. According to survivors, the whale suddenly attacked the ship with incredible force, striking the vessel and causing massive damage. The crew tried desperately to save their ship, but the attack was devastating. The Essex sank, leaving 20 sailors stranded in small wooden boats thousands of miles from land. What followed became one of the darkest survival stories in maritime history. With limited food and water, the crew faced starvation, dehydration, and extreme conditions. Weeks turned into months as they drifted across the endless ocean. After 89 days lost at sea, only a few survivors remained, and the desperation of survival pushed them into unimaginable decisions. The tragedy shocked the public and later became one of the inspirations behind Herman Melville's famous novel, Moby Dick. But the real-world inspiration was not only the sinking of the Essex. Sailors had been telling stories for decades about enormous whales that seemed almost impossible to defeat. Some described giant whales attacking ships, smashing wooden hulls, and escaping after violent battles. Among these stories was the legend of Mocha Dick, a massive albino sperm whale reportedly seen near Chile's Mocha Island. Sailors claimed this pale giant was unusually aggressive and had survived numerous attacks from whalers. Whether every detail was true or exaggerated, the story captured people's imagination. When Herman Melville wrote Moby Dick in 1851, he combined these real events, sailor legends, and his own experiences at sea to create the story of Captain Ahab's obsession with hunting the legendary white whale. But beneath the fiction was a powerful reality. Whales were not helpless giants waiting to be conquered. They were intelligent, social animals with incredible strength. When threatened, they could defend themselves with unbelievable power. A whale weighing tens of tons could destroy a ship with a single. A creature that humans hunted for profit could suddenly become the hunter itself. Today, scientists know sperm whales are among the largest toothed predators on Earth. They can dive thousands of meters deep, communicate through complex sounds, and survive in some of the most extreme environments in the ocean. The real Moby Dick may never have existed exactly as the story describes. But the events that inspired the legend prove something important. Sometimes reality doesn't need monsters. The ocean already creates creatures powerful enough to feel like legends. And somewhere beneath those endless waves, the descendants of these ancient giants continue to remind us that humans are visitors in their world, not rulers of it. From the monstrous Kraken to the mysterious Agapogo, from ancient serpent legends to ghostly spirits of the sea, every story we've explored raises the same question. Where did these legends come from? For centuries, people assumed they were nothing more than fairy tales created by frightened sailors. But history has repeatedly shown that reality can be just as unbelievable as fiction. The giant squid was once dismissed as an impossible monster until scientists finally confirmed its existence. Prehistoric oceans were ruled by predators larger and more powerful than anyone could have imagined. Fossils continue to reveal new species that rewrite everything we thought we knew about life beneath the waves. Even today, marine researchers discover hundreds of previously unknown ocean species every year. Many live in places humans have barely explored, surviving in crushing pressure, freezing temperatures, and complete darkness. Every expedition into the deep uncovers creatures that look more like aliens than animals from Earth. This is what makes ocean legends so fascinating. Most myths are not created from nothing. They often begin with a real event, a strange sighting, an unusual animal, or an experience that people could not explain. As those stories pass from one generation to another, they grow larger, stranger, and more mysterious until they become the legends we know today. That doesn't mean every mythical creature is real. There is no scientific evidence that beings like the Kraken described in folklore, Leviathan as portrayed in ancient texts, or enormous supernatural monsters are still roaming the oceans. But there is also a simple truth that keeps our curiosity alive. The deep sea remains one of the least explored places on our planet. Every year, advanced submarines and robotic explorers descend farther than ever before, revealing landscapes no human has ever seen. Towering underwater mountains, endless trenches, glowing creatures, and bizarre predators remind us that the ocean still holds countless mysteries waiting to be discovered. Perhaps one day science will explain every legend. Or perhaps somewhere, in a place no human has reached, another astonishing creature is waiting to be found. Until then, the line between myth and reality remains blurred by the darkness beneath the waves. So, which creature do you think could have been inspired by a real animal? Was it the colossal Kraken, the fearsome Leviathan, the giant sea serpent, or another legend entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey into the world's greatest ocean mysteries, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. There are many more incredible discoveries, forgotten legends, and deep-sea secrets waiting to be explored. Because the greatest mystery isn't what we've already found. It's what we haven't discovered, yet.